Hey, this is Power Card, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
It's pretty incredible. In fact, it's la-marvelous. Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Friday, February 26th, I think. I think that's when we're going to be releasing this, recording this. In the studio setup, I've got Spenny on screen one here, Kyle on screen two. Boys hopping in here for a little three-man weave. We've got a interesting week, one that you would not think would be especially filled with news. Somehow has been filled with news. It feels like a fucking middle school hallway, news-wise. So we're going to get into all that, but how you guys doing?
Release the news, or else I'm going to post pictures of you deep-throating an Arby's sandwich.
Release the news. Listen, there are many pictures of me, maybe not with... Actually, there is one infamous picture that I've begged my friends at the Pit and Pub in Ocean City. Great little all-you-can-eat breakfast situation there. Great sausages. Great sausages, and there's a picture of myself. It's been turned into a Snapchat sticker with one of their brats just going to town, and
a real glizzard.
Listen,
a Washington Glizzard.
They call me the Glizzy.
With the Glizzy,
the Glizzy Gladiator, for a reason. El Glizzidente, some have said. So, yeah, that's tough. Of course, we have just completely flown off the highway within the first minute of recording this thing. I was going to ask Spenny before you just absolutely assassinated me with the Glizzy Arby's comment there. How's it going?
We're doing well, dog. We're getting through the dead zone. We've got the franchise tag period creeping up. I'm getting through some prospects, getting pretty deep here. Real nice and deep like into the receivers. I've been really focused on receivers, pass rushers, and offensive linemen so far. I haven't really dived too deep into the safeties, but we're chilling. I'm sick of shoveling, but trying to go skiing soon. Enjoy the outdoors. Get out of the house. That's my goal for the next couple of weeks, especially if it snows again.
Yeah, it feels like it's we're hopefully getting through that. So I could really use a nice little weather bump. Today was great in that respect. Got out for a run for the first time in a little while. So that was nice, and finalizing plans to get down to the beach for St. Patrick's Day. So it's we're getting through sad boy season here. Kyle, how's it going?
It's going well. Woke up to writing news on my phone while I was riding with Allie, trying to get her a new phone. We had to leave from our city to one nearby so she could pick up the new phone. And I was just typing away on my iPhone the entire drive. I had to sit in the passenger seat to get everything going there. Overall, today was good. Had to attend my first in-person geology lab because I took Geology 101 my very first semester of college, but apparently you have to take a lab that goes with it before you graduate. So I am in my final semester, as infamously known here on the pod, Twitch, social media, everything. And I had to do my first in-person one. We had to identify 14 different rocks or minerals, which was a blast in 2 hours. And overall, the day's been peculiar with the news going on that I know you'll get us to. But other than that, snowy out here, just as cold. It went from 50 degrees to 2 inches of snow within 12 hours.
How was your report on Dwayne Johnson?
Dwayne Johnson was pretty good. We learned magnetite is magnetic, which was pretty exciting. Amphibole is the correct term for a rock, and it's not amphibole. I feel like amphibole sounds like a far better name and far superior pronunciation when you spell that out.
Someone make a silly of themselves in front of the class.
It's amphibole, but I called it amphibole, and my professor even agreed with me. He's like, that sounds far better. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes we put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. It happens from time to time, and that's what I did today.
I'm unsure if my Dwayne Johnson / The Rock joke just completely went over heads there, or I'm sure it's getting a great laugh from the people that are listening. So
I got it. It took me a moment, and that's why I responded and answered with like telling you how I did like my mineral test, my rock test, as you had it. It took a moment, but we did get there. And I appreciate you always checking in when a joke doesn't quite land the way that you expect it to land.
That's the thing about like
from you, Jake.
That's the thing about jokes is like that they're really good when you have to like check on them or explain them to people. And I'm
explaining the jokes is the best way of
when they don't quite land the way you expected, like my girl Rachel on The Bachelor.
Let's get some Bachelor analysis. What'd you guys think of the most recent episode?
Bro, there's nothing like going face first into Mother Earth.
Into the earth.
To get a guy to swoon over you the way that Rachel did.
Her tiny little body just crashing into this giant rock that we call Earth at high rates of speed. The thing is, I've rewatched the slow-mo of it, and it looks like she didn't put her feet out like at all. Like she did not brace for contact. Scouting report on Rachel.
High center of gravity,
way too high and tight. She bends at the nothing.
She bends at the nose.
She's a waist bender. Yeah, she bends at the nose, but not at the knees. Privy to fumbling, just absolutely gets obliterated in the hole.
It sounded fucking sick, and like I don't watch the show. I was telling you guys I listened to a recap pod of it. Funny enough, shout out to the Washed Media guys, I guess friends of the program, and the recap sounded amazing of her slamming into the earth, and like the producers sounded like they did like nothing about it, which is also pretty sick. Like just kind of tough it out, rub some dirt in it, It's for Matt.
The makeup crew was great because she like had dirt in the mouth.
Oh yeah, the makeup crew. You got to make her look good.
And then the side interview, like afterwards, she's like, "It's just nice that like he cared about me when that happened." And she's like got the perfect part in her hair again. There's no grass anywhere. Makeup's all taken care of.
She was disheveled.
Like, yeah, she got it. Looked like when Chad Ochocinco tried to lay out Ray Lewis, and Chad's the one that got rocked instead. Like that was the same impact on there.
When I get a new,
it was the same impact.
I've been flirting with getting a new mixer for like way too long now, so hopefully it's going to happen soon. I'm looking at the Rodecaster, which is like what most pro operations have, and they have like little sound buttons. And I definitely want to get like a sound drop of Ocho Cinco said, "I tried to hit Ray when he wasn't looking, and I lost." And he's like kneeling to the ground, like, just like suffering. Yeah, but Bachelor recaps. We're all over the place right now, but.
This is gonna be a fun epi.
It is. It's been an interesting week. If you are a Baltimore Ravens fan, funny to think that we were just whining about the Orlando Brown situation a week ago. We have a moratorium on that on this podcast now, but there's been plenty of other stuff to discuss that we're going to get to. But we did first want to touch on a couple housekeeping news bits that the Ravens saw some more brain drain along their coaching staff with running backs coach Matt Weiss, who had been with not Matt Wise, by the way, a gent, a absolute mensch of a man, but Matt Weiss, the running backs coach, going to Michigan to join brother Jim Harbaugh. He'd been with the organization, I think, like over a decade from what I saw. Looked like he put out some complimentary stuff on Twitter there about them as Kyle just absolutely faces a bottle of wine. He has already commented that he is a half a bottle of wine deep, so I guess that'll round out the round. He's rounding the bases and he's coming home. Won't do it with Popov, but he'll do it with wine. But Matt Weiss off to Michigan, replaced by Craig Versteeg. Spenny, did you have any like insight on Matt Weiss? Because I feel like I hadn't really heard this name too much. They had the other guy there as the running backs coach. I guess Weiss had been internally promoted in the last couple of years. Is that ringing bells? Or
yeah, Matt Weiss has been around for I believe 10 years, something like that. Eight
who
years.
Who was the running backs coach a couple years ago? Thomas Hammock, I think his name was. He went to
Hammock is at NIU.
Yeah,
getting drummed. I covered a couple of their games for SIS. They had a tough season. They had the most freshmen. I think they had the most freshman snaps of any team in the country, if I'm not mistaken. But Matt Weiss has bounced around. He's spent time as a quality control guy, an assistant. I think quarterback's assistant as well, and a guy who wears all different hats. But people have a ton of positive things to say about him. J.K. Dobbins loves him. Gus Edwards loves him. Mark Ingram loves him. Seems like he is a really tidy meeting, like efficiency guy in terms of practice and meetings and keeping guys on track and keeping them engaged. He has a ton of really fun, different tidbits. Like they play Jeopardy. When players get drafted, Matt Weiss would play Ravens Jeopardy with them to help catch them up on like Ravens history and, what franchise you just became a part of and things like that, as well as like within the Jeopardy, like, all right, JK, when we're in gun right, what is the check to this play? What is the word for the check to that play at the line of scrimmage? Things like that. So he is young. He's enthusiastic. He has been able to bounce all around, and it feels like the Wolverines got a good one. So as you said, the brain drain is now kind of like the lobotomy. The Ravens have had to completely steer in a new direction on both sides of the football, really, which is just so strange considering the coordinators have remained in place. So considering that, it's quite a unique situation. So it's going to be fun to see how these guys incorporate, but it's tough during COVID.
Yeah, definitely. Kyle, like you've been, kind of around these guys a little bit more than we have even in person as far as going to training camps and stuff. Do you have any like interactions, or maybe not interactions, but like were you ever like at the podium with Weiss? Do you have any insight on Versteeg as well? Like what is kind of your take on this whole situation?
Unfortunately, it's kind of embarrassing. I don't think I could pick those guys out of a lineup, to be quite honest with you. I think I've spoken with Matt at one point when the running backs group kind of went up there and you ask about Gus, you ask about JK. I didn't get to ask about JK, obviously, because I didn't get to attend training camp due to COVID this year. But overall, I don't really know too much about the group other than like, Weiss coached the most dominant run game from the most dominant running backs the last 2 years, and 2019 was the most dominant run game in NFL history. So, that's got to account for something. And overall, respect to him and good luck and go Big Blue.
Big Blue, huh? You big Michigan guy?
I like Michigan as a kid. I was as a young kid. I liked the Wolverines. I always liked them, and like it was like the popular pick in Twin Spruce Junior High in Gillette, Wyoming. That was the popular one. I like their helmets, their logos, and
shout out to the Deuce Spruces.
There you go. But yeah, I like them. As everybody knows, I am a Miami fan more than anything. But yeah, I like Michigan. I'll root for them. I have no qualms with them. I'm just not a Spartans fan. Unfortunately, my grandparents are, and they're from Upper Peninsula, Michigan, so they're all Yoopers.
They're Yoopers, huh?
They're Yoopers. Oh yeah, I loved going up there. It's wild up there. I loved it. But yeah, I like the Wolverines.
Okay.
So here's a fun thing on Weiss. Prior to being the running backs coach, he spent a lot of time on defense. He was the cornerbacks coach at one point, assistant linebackers, and quality control. In 2018, he served as Baltimore's football strategy coordinator. In that role, he was responsible for leading the analytics department of the coaching staff, advising head coach John Harbaugh on game management and scripting situational practice periods. And he actually worked for Jim Harbaugh out of college. He earned a master's degree in liberal arts from Stanford while serving as a GA under Jim Harbaugh during his time at Stanford. He worked with the defense and special teams.
Interesting. So, yeah, okay. So it sounds like
he's just a football guy.
Yeah, diversified portfolio there too, which is nice. Good for him. He could maybe we'll see him rising through the college ranks a little bit then.
For sure. And him with McDonald out there and got a lot of Ravens ties. The Harbaughs love the Harbaughs guys.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I guess you brought that up, so we didn't even get a chance to, touch on this, or maybe we just forgot to, but the Ravens made a couple I don't even know what you would call this, hires of interns within the analytics realm. They've been doing this the past couple of years. They hired Sean Clement, another Sarah Mullapalla, Derek Yam, I think their names are, a couple of years ago. They've expanded. They brought in Daniel Stern, obviously, who everyone's familiar with as the fourth down fame guy. Spenny, you touched on these guys a little bit in our Slack chat. What is your insight on, Mr. Gelman? And who was the other?
Charlie Gelman.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Charlie has been working with Duke for a long time. He as an advanced statistics analyst. Geez, that was a tough one for some reason. For the Duke wrestling team, he's also been a student coach for Duke football. He's been in the Big Data Bowl the past 2 years, which Michael Lopez won and became kind of the NFL's head of analytics on their website and driving all of that and leading that charge. So Charlie has been an extremely kind of middle ground between analytics and football itself. Not treating everything binary, but also trying to drive what is necessary, what is not necessary. A young guy that has done a ton of great work. Definitely go follow him. He's pretty open on Twitter. I imagine that might get restricted a little bit more now that he's actually working for the Ravens. But I watched, I can't remember, I watched his first Data Bowl presentation, I think on YouTube or something, but extremely knowledgeable, and the Ravens just continue to expand their analytics process, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And he immediately is like, has Barstool Banks tweeting about Stern and hashtag #RRavens and throwing up some ridiculous tweets and stuff like that, because the analytics community loves the Ravens. They do a ton of innovative things. They're extremely aggressive on fourth down. They, have dived into play action and RPOs and all these different efficiencies, and they have high quality special teams play at the same time. So they've been a darling of the analytics community for quite some time, and they get a darling of the analytics community to join them. So that's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, definitely does seem that way, as they've been kind of adding that roster the last couple of years, and the analytics community obviously is extremely online, as that is just kind of a function of their job, it feels like, and helps them advance up through the ranks. So it's kind of always funny to see them interacting. You had the guy tweeting at Banks about Stern, which I thought was kind of funny. Nice little bringing the tie-in back to that 2019 season and everything Stern has done since. Obviously is pretty great, but just kind of an interesting, obviously there's been a million other things going on, but an interesting couple days on the hiring and losing coaches front. But Kyle, at what point, I think Humphrey even tweeted this, it's going to be a meet and greet when they get there for training camp. Like, as a guy who has been up close for training camps and see the way these coaches affect guys, at what point do you think this brain drain is going to have like a tangible effect?
I think it has a tangible effect right away. This is wild to see. What is it? 9 coaches at this time? 10 coaches, somewhere in there, that have left the Ravens. And I mean, that's significant. You're going to have so much new information coming out, but it's rather peculiar to see. Yeah, it is the 9th coaching departure this offseason. And like Humphrey said, this is going to be a unique new experience. I think it's positive for the franchise. I think it's great news for the Ravens that they're getting new groups in there, that they're getting new coaches in there, that they're getting new ideas. Because if you have a group of people that all agree on the same things and disagree on the same things, you're not learning anything new. So bringing in new ideas, bringing in new culture is always a must to be innovative and to be expansive. I think this is an overall great move for the Ravens, though. They lost a lot of talent. No doubt about it. They lost some talent in the coaching department, and hopefully they've made up for it with new hires and new acquisitions.
Yeah, and just plenty of murders and acquisitions going on. But I think as far as some of the hires in particular like Williams and Martin, I think I'm pretty intrigued by. We were talking a little bit offline about some of these interviews they've been doing. I haven't had a chance to catch them yet. I think Spenny has. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I think from the perspective of everyone, and we're going to get into this even more, everyone still somehow calling for Greg Roman's head, I think there has to be some sort of breaking point or reconciliation point at the very least with the fact that you're bringing new guys in that are going to be making a difference one way or the other. So in that way, it's kind of a go for broke situation, it feels like.
And interestingly enough, it just came to me, Charlie Gelman's Big Data Bowl project. So the Big Data Bowl, you're given access to next-gen stats tracking info, and Gelman used the info to determine the most successful route combinations, which people love to talk about.
He's a big route concepts guy, huh?
Exactly. So Gelman comes on. He has expertise in trying to identify on paper what are the most successful route combinations. That goes even further into that. And the interesting part about Martin and Williams coming in is that David Culley was wearing both of those hats as one human being. And the Ravens addressed that area in their postseason press conferences and looked at it and were like, hey, we want to get better in pass protection. We want to get better throwing the football more efficiently. We want to continue to run the ball really well. And having 2 guys come in and delegate those duties shows that they found it fit to expand and look at the analytics side of it with a hire like Gelman. Maybe they're able to do some things on paper, put them on the field, and have guys that are a little bit more experienced working with some younger receivers in recent history, like T. Martin, who has coached a ton of really great NFL receivers that are in the NFL right now, and maybe he's a little bit younger and fresher and whatever. That's all speculative stuff, but overall, the Ravens are making an effort to bring in new, fresh outside blood in the passing game, as we've said, and you love to see it. And then, that breaks into the comments that have been made by a couple of Ravens, probably former receivers in the past couple of days. But overall, things are trending up for the past game. It looks like based on them overcompensating, hiring 2 guys to fix a problem that 1 guy was in charge of before.
Yeah, definitely. And before we jump into those comments from the receivers, did also want to touch on the fact that there was some, might be good news, might be bad news, depending on which team you're rooting for, and also like depending on which team you're rooting for in what way. The Steelers released a statement. Art Rooney, I always read it as Art Rooney 2. I think it's supposed to be Art Rooney the second, but I think Art Rooney 2, the sequel. He released a statement on QB Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger and I met yesterday morning, and we had a productive meeting. We were able to discuss a lot of things that relate to where we are and where we want to go. Ben assured me that he is committed to coming back to help us win, and I told Ben that we would like to have him back to help us win a championship. We both understand that the next step is to work out Ben's contract situation. So this is like kind of a fun situation where like Ben was he was pretty adamant that like he was coming back. He was really excited to do so. His contract situation is a mess. He's owed all this money, and he was throwing it out there like, "Yep, I'm going to be back." Like, you know, this old cowboy's got a couple more rounds in the old chamber here. He's going to come back and, you know, save the day like old John Wayne Roethlisberger that he is. Just riding in on the white horse like a real hero. Everyone loves Ben, but, you know, the Steelers, a little more non-committal. It was kind of like, it was kind of a Jared Goff, like, yeah, he's our quarterback right now situation. Like, yeah, Kevin Colbert or Kevin Colbert, depending on what your perspective is on his last name, talking about how we're not so sure on Ben. But this does actually close the book on that, like I said, depending on your perspective, I think a lot of Ravens and Browns fans and even Cincinnati fans are maybe a little happy to hear this news, Kyle.
I'm fine with it. Ben Roethlisberger looked poor. He looked disheveled. He was not an accurate-looking quarterback. And the 11-0, as we all know, was like a misrepresentation of that franchise, a misrepresentation of their production. And was it not for a COVID outbreak within the Ravens locker room, you know, I strongly believe they don't even get to 11-0, and the Ravens or they get stopped at whatever they were stopped at with the Ravens, because, you know, even Trace McSorley with Marquise Brown had an opportunity to win that game against the undefeated Steelers at the time. So I'm not worried about Ben Roethlisberger too much. You know, early in the year, he'll probably do well. He'll perform the expectation, but the longer the season goes on, the more he tends to struggle and the more demanding this sport is. This sport isn't about, you know, September and October. This sport is about December, January, and February. We all know about that. And I don't know if he can make it all the way through there. And I don't mean that by like, can he make it through without injury? I mean, can he continue to perform for 16 straight games, if not more? I don't think he can. And I think the Steelers are stuck between rock and a hard place, as a cliche phrase, because, you know, he's their franchise quarterback. He has been their franchise quarterback. He's capable of production, but, you know, where do they need to cut ties and realize that they should probably part ways, or that you know, he's incapable of leading them to where they want to go? Because I don't know if he's capable of leading the Pittsburgh Steelers on a run towards a coveted Lombardi. I'm not confident in it. And I'm curious as to whether the Steelers truly believe he's capable of doing so or not.
I wouldn't be either. And they're in like a weird spot where like, yeah, they want to go like and make a run at a Lombardi, but it feels like it's going to be tough to do with him. But it also feels like it's going to be tough to go get a quarterback with the lack of picks that they have to be able to do so. And then it's like, they're not going to tank. Like, you know, even if they get rid of him, you got like Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt and all these guys that like, they're not going to like just throw a season. So like, it feels like it's him or bust. And obviously, you know, many people seem to be of the opinion that it's going to be bust. Spenny, what is your take on this whole Steelers quarterback situation heading into the 2021?
He can't push the ball downfield with velocity anymore. He has to throw lollipops. They relied on quick passing and screens, which he's outstanding at mentally and able to operate an offense and direct and get guys on the same page. But when you crowd the line of scrimmage coverage-wise and press up and kind of play a little too high and get really aggressive underneath, he has to throw lollipops over top, and it's not a sustainable business model. And then compounding that with their limited cap space, you can't restructure him. You can extend him and push another $14 million to next year, and then allowing him another opportunity to kind of hold you hostage, because it feels like Ben wants that damn money, wants to cash out as much as he can. say what you want. I feel like over my life, I've learned a lot about Ben Roethlisberger and what type of person he is. And I feel like at this point, he wants that damn money. I don't think he gives a shit about winning a ring quite as much as he does about the money. He wants to sail off into the sunset after getting this $22 million potentially that he's owed. If it takes him 2 years to do it, I think he'll do that. The Steelers don't have a good offensive line. They can't hold up for long. He can't move in the pocket. He is not mobile. He gets hit. He gets banged up. He is rebuilt. His shoulder is repaired. He is, Andrew Luck walked away at 32 years old. Ben Roethlisberger has taken 5,000 more hits than him, has had more surgeries, more, the entire laundry list. And at this point, they don't have a strong running game. You don't have a good offensive line. You're now going to try and rebuild your offensive line. So you went from having a poor offensive line to now a rebuilding offensive line, which is really scary to have a 40-year-old quarterback who you don't have any cap space. You've got a couple picks, but it just doesn't look bright there right now. They had a meltdown. They lost to Ryan Finley on the read option. They couldn't defend. It felt like that defense propped them up throughout the season. Bud Dupree goes down. Devin Bush goes down. They weren't the same defense. And they kick the can down the road with Roethlisberger. I mean, he has what is his cap hit this year? I just had it pulled up. I think it's $41 million. $40 million.
Yeah, it's a lot.
$41 million cap hit when you're 19 in the red. So, I mean, like I said, I don't think Ben is going to be like, I'll just call that contract wish wash and call it.
And they've talked about
calls it $10 million.
Yeah, they've talked about doing a restructure type deal, and it's of course he's probably going to
sit in
his
final season, so they can't.
And he's going to be the old cowboy Roethlisberger, going to be holstering his guns up, and he's going to be so amenable to a restructure. But then you get to that negotiating table, and we'll see what happens. And it's interesting. I saw Aditi Kinkwabala, who we're probably all pretty familiar with for having some interesting takes regarding the Ravens' COVID situation. I don't have to go any further than that, but she's bemoaning the lack of a running game around him, and it's yeah, I mean, you just got all these resources tied up elsewhere in him, in the defense, in the receiving game, ironically. And I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting, almost parallel situation to the Ravens where they need this running game to be really strong around him. And it's I just don't know. What is the way forward?
And they can cut him and take a $22 million cap hit and free up $19 million, I believe. Something like that.
Yeah, it's $19 million. I just checked that out. And also to correct, Luck retired at 29 years old.
29 years old, yeah.
Luck was 29 when he retired because he was sick of the rehab process and, in quotes, said, I haven't been able to live the life I want to live. It's taken the joy out of this game. The only way forward for me is to remove myself from football.
I just really wasn't having a good time. I wanted to stay back in my house and read books, guys. It just really isn't that great of a situation for me. So I'm going to go back to Stanford and you guys have some fun here in Indianapolis. I got to finish Game of Thrones and George R.R. Martin's taking fucking forever to finish them, but we'll see what happens. That's my
and that was Chris Collinsworth as Andrew Luck.
Yeah, that's me impersonating Chris Collinsworth, impersonating Joey Molinaro, impersonating Andrew Luck.
Another bad attempt there. But
that was good. Come on, that was pretty
Luck
good.
Was 29. Roethlisberger's 39. Still hobbling out there.
Yeah, he's got all the.
He loves it. He loves the rehab process. He gets his thighs rubbed. He gets treated real gingerly. He gets to slip his foot into that comfortable walking boot and plod around town and get on the old crutches, get in the cryotherapy and have himself a nice cry and do it up. Old Rick to you, Ben Roethlisberger.
Old Rick Dalton Roethlisberger, the TV cowboy out there on the set, just making everyone feel bad for him. I'm not buying into it,
And I'm not that plugged into the Steelers fans, whatever nature of Twitter and that whole beast, but I can only imagine the disparity between Grandpa Al, the 63-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, longtime supporter that has framed terrible towels throughout the years, and the guys who've really started to like Le'Veon Bell and AB and stuck around for Juju, and the Chase Claypool fans right now are probably irate, want him gone. Grandpa Al wants him to stay in town, and it's some half-assed Brett Favre 2000 and whatever bullshit where it's can you just fucking retire, man? Just end it. Just spare all of us, please, and get out of here.
Except Dick Pixie's just blocking everyone on Twitter.
Settle up one more time again.
Just fucking Arthur Morgan and the boys just riding into battle, fucking robbing trains and just having themselves a grand old time. It's really romantic, Ben. We're all on this ride with you right now.
The funniest moment, the funniest entire thing of Ben Roethlisberger's career to me will always and forever be the Steelers playing the Broncos in 2017, the year that Juju is having his breakout year and AB starts getting pissy. Let's examine maybe why AB went off the rails. The Steelers are driving down, they're down one score, they have to score a touchdown, and the Broncos have the cojones to run a play where Shelby Harris, their nose tackle, drops back into coverage over the middle of the field. AB is running a drag route. Ben throws it 5 feet straight into Shelby Harris's freaking hands. He loses the game, goes on the radio station, whatever it is, KOAA, the first radio station in America, and goes on there in the morning, on Monday morning, and blames Antonio Brown for not running his route shallow.
It was James Washington, I thought, the rookie.
No, it was Antonio Brown.
It was AB. AB was in the barbershop with like LeBron and them, and he hopped on there and said, "I need to run a better route." You threw it to the D tackle. What do you want? I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, what is he going to run underneath of the defensive line from out wide?
That play was fucking sick. That was maybe the funniest play. Like, I laugh like manufactured sometimes when a play happens. That was just a full-on belly laugh, like genuine enjoyment laughter, like when that happened.
I mean, if we want to reference Steelers' blunders against the Broncos, there's nothing more grand than a Demaryius Thomas 80-yard tutty from the saint himself, the archangel of football, Tim Tebow, baby.
R.I.P. to his professional baseball career.
A Met forever, baby.
Forever Met.
What is he going to do now to like try and milk relevance?
He's got a great gig doing college football.
Yeah, doesn't he do college football broadcasting stuff?
He's been doing that. Why not just do that and stop like fucking riding the bus through
that he's competing with Johnny Unitas to set your watch to?
Yeah, let's calm down with that. Tebow is like putting product and shit in there. Johnny was just fucking going to the barber and telling him, "Give me a cut." And he's like pointing in, like his fingers are all fucked up. He's pointing to like where he wants it to be. It's just a different dynamic. He was, the guys were simply built different back then.
Built
Timmy
different.
Tebow, Matt Weiner, and Reggie Bush sitting at a table discussing college football, wearing 3-piece suits and just done up to the nines. Those are the boys.
Those are the cool guys. Like I like those guys.
That's a cool kid table.
Yeah, that was kind of when I was really young when those guys were like at the peak of college, kind of just really starting to get into sports, and was like, holy shit, like USC is like the coolest school in the world.
Yeah, man, they were buying Reggie Bush a house.
just no fucks given. Heisman. Matt Leinart's like wearing his like terrible leather jacket around, going to all the cool clubs with like Vinny Chase.
Somehow it's like, oh yeah, they bought Reggie Bush a house. Let's penalize Reggie Bush. Let's penalize the 18-year-old kid, not the school.
Sitting in a house the school bought me, getting my Heisman taken it away.
No one ever talks
where
about
it all went so wrong.
But no one ever talks about how Vince Young wrecked a Ferrari that was in his name at Texas in Austin, totaled a brand new Ferrari like 3 minutes from the bars, and no one ever really looked into that.
He was trying to beat the rustic chilies, man. Give him a break.
Texas forever.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
He was trying to get off 6th Street and get over to that fucking Chili's on South Lamar and go to town.
Shout out to Madden 2008 when they had the possession catches and all that stuff. Vince Young on the cover. That was a good one. One of my top 5 Maddens.
Vince is like one of my all-time favorite players, to be honest.
Sick, nasty.
He's sweet. All right, I guess that is all we have on the Steelers quarterback situation.
We're having fun.
We're just loopy right now. Speaking of loopy, Willie Snead 4 got a little loopy the other day on Twitter.
Need for Snead.
Vroom.
This was Monday, correct? We're recording this on Wednesday.
Correct.
So he tweets out of nowhere. Like by the way, I had gone into the office to like do some work in the warehouse. Like I was just like doing manual labor that day. He's tweeting it out. Like he tweets out. So here's what he tweets. Just out of nowhere. Any receiver can be a quote unquote true number one, end quote, if they are in a system that allows them to be. What they do after that is on him, 100 emoji, RNS, which I don't know what that means. So he tweets this out. Hollywood Brown quote tweets it with the 100 emoji as well. Ravens Twitter set ablaze. Tiger Woods is maybe dead. So, like, I'm paying attention to that. I don't know what's going on. I'm not worried about this, like, in the slightest. Like, I'm freaking out because the cat just, like, rolled his car over in Brentwood or something like that. I'm following that. This is going on. Ravens Twitter is exploding. Dez gets into the mix. He starts tweeting about his experience. And it's just an entire situation. So I guess we can start right from the beginning there. What was your guys' initial take on this tweet and this Hollywood quote tweet?
To me, it sounded like the Ravens, and it goes on with Dez as well. Dez starts getting into it out of nowhere because, Dez, he didn't say anything bad, but
in fact, I think he came out really well at the end of it, to be fair.
Yeah, of course. But he does, anytime he can kind of get into the spotlight.
He likes to get in the mix, yeah.
Yeah, he loves getting in the mix. And to me, it kind of sounds like, maybe the Ravens might have been like, all right, Dez, thanks for whatever. Willie, you were a great Raven for a few years here, but we're getting out and about. We're going to go look at some other options. Maybe that didn't happen. It is #speculation season after all. But to Willie's point, could he be a number one receiver in the NFL like Devontae Adams or, Tyreek Hill right now? Like, no. But if his point is just that if you throw a guy, he ends up going on to say something along the lines of, if you throw a guy 100 targets, they're going to be a quote unquote number one receiver. And to that, I agree. If
look at Kamar Aiken in 2015 is what I immediately thought of.
Exactly. He was the Ravens number one. So whoever's getting 100 targets is a number one receiver in that way. And I was trying to talk, I think the whole notion of a number one receiver is like this antiquated, stupid thing anyway. Who is the Bucs number one receiver? Like, who is the Chiefs number one receiver? Is it Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce? Like, you need multiple weapons, number one. Then you look at DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona. How did that go? They have a number one receiver, whatever. But to me, it just means volume. It doesn't mean that you're better or worse than someone. It just means that you have a lot of volume and we're able to handle it, decently well. A guy like Michael Thomas getting 160,000 targets over a 3-year period. And at this point, it was just like, all right, yeah, I hear what you're saying. He ends up saying at the end of that tweet, once you're in the right system, it's on you to succeed, basically. And I agree with all that stuff, but I don't know. It just got blown into this entire thing of like, fire Greg Roman or, Willie Snead sucks or like whatever. And it was just like some freaking philosophical, it was a professional wide receiver talking about how he thinks that, pretty much most of the guys in the NFL could probably be a number one in the right place. And that's why I always say, Hollywood Brown, put him in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is going to hit him in stride every single time. He's going to beat people. He is way more accurate than Lamar Jackson. And to that, I agree in that kind of way, but it's like, all right, what did we have to take this and make it into some sort of like panic button scenario? Because Willie Snead, who had 33 receptions last year and has been, a nice wide receiver 3 that was propelled into a number one receiver role kind of for the Ravens, thinking back to parts of this year when Hollywood and Miles Boykin were not functioning on all cylinders. Like, what does his words about that have to mean some grand gesture about the Ravens franchise and all of these different thoughts and whatever? And he went on and was like, no shade, just facts. And I don't know the deep meaning, whatever. And everyone's like, they're talking about Greg Roman. And it's like, are they? Because they're not mentioning his name. And like Lamar Jackson will mention Greg Roman's name, like when they bring him up, when he goes on Rich Eisen show, they'll talk about Greg Roman openly. So it's like everyone trying to read between the lines based on tweets and whatever. And it's just like the worst part of Twitter and whatever. I don't even know. It's
to me like
mess.
Yeah, it to me feels like a total Rorschach situation where like the same people that were coming out and tweeting about all this are the same people that are like saying fire Greg Roman and doing the whole route concepts thing. And like that is not to say, because there was some belly aching about people like refuting that, saying you don't know football. Well, like, I'm not saying that, but like newsflash, like you don't know football. Just like I don't know football. Just like Spencer even doesn't know football, and he like
I
knows
don't know football. I don't know what Willie Snead's responsibilities are play to play. I don't know any.
And you know,
the more you know about football, the less you know about football.
Yeah, and like
that is what you have to realize.
Relative to me, like more than like, or you'll forget more than I know right now. Like I'm working on it, but like you are probably one of the most knowledgeable people that I personally know compared to what these guys in the building are actually doing. We don't know jack shit, but like. So what happens is like Dez gets into the mix because you had a reply from a guy at Eric St. Croix. Love you, Willie, but I couldn't disagree more. A quote-unquote true number one receiver is definitely different from a speedy wide receiver or a possession wide receiver, which is what the hashtag Ravensflock actually needs. A big body, sure-handed wide receiver to complement Hollywood, i.e. Torrey Smith and Anquan Bolden would be ideal. Then you had a reply to that from Matt Davis, where he says, yeah, but if the system doesn't work around the player, then all of that you talking doesn't matter. As long as the system allows that player to show off their talent, then you really don't know what they can do. And that's all Snead is saying, where you have Dez get into the mix saying, he quote tweets that gentleman saying, and my guy, you hit it right on the nail. Then we had at Ray Rice fan 2 reply to that. Dez, just say it. You're a FA now. Just say Greg Roman is a bad OC and should be fired to save Lamar and Hollywood's career. Dez quote tweets this. I will speak on my personal experience. I was in a position where everything was already established. I took advantage of getting myself right. I realized quick Baltimore wasn't the place for me. No bad blood. That's their way of doing things, so you got to respect it. Then, at Baller3161 replies to this. They should have given you a better opportunity. He quote tweets that. No OTAs, no minicamp, and coming in midway through the season is not normal. I wasn't bothered about playing time. I enjoyed myself, and I met some great teammates. Guys, I feel like I will be keeping contact for a long time. I'm thankful for the opportunity Baltimore gave me. And then this guy, Mr. MF, who I actually go back with on Twitter, I like him. He says, so you and Lamar's chemistry was off because those practice videos you posted, bringing it back to those, looked like y'all was on point. He, quote, responds to that. Our chemistry was good on and off the field, but it was guys there before me who understood the offensive concepts better than me. You can't jeopardize that. Then you have Bernardo Araripe says, do you have plans to play again next season? Really hope so. He says, I plan on playing 2 more years, and that's it for me. Somebody asked him what he plans on doing after retirement. He says something about helping people make the transition into retirement life, and kind of goes on to say basically that his experience was unique. He, didn't get opportunities. There were good reasons why he didn't get those opportunities. And people were trying to, again, twist that into an attack on Greg Roman. And I feel like ultimately it didn't come out on that. And then PFT tweets, because Dez did say that he will be playing 2 more years, but not in Baltimore. Pro Football Talk tweets a story. Dez Bryant wants to play 2 more seasons, but not with the Ravens. Dez quote tweets that and says, I pray everyone read the article. The Baltimore Ravens are a first-class organization. Kyle, a lot to take in there.
Yeah, an overwhelming amount to take in. But overall, I think the biggest thing is wide receivers have to sacrifice their stats and their numbers to play for the Ravens. It is a run-first offense. The Ravens are proud of that. Ozzie Newsome is proud of building that. The front office is, the coaching staff, the players, and everybody is proud that their offense operates the way that it does. It was the most dominant offense in 2019. Lamar threw 36 touchdowns in that run-first offense. So it's ridiculous to think that this isn't some great passing team, or it's not a passing team, because they can still operate quite efficiently. It's not always about volume; it's about efficiency. I think Spencer's mentioned that many a time. You guys spoke on that with Sarah.
The Ravens have the worst passing attack in the league. No, the Bears, the Jets, teams like that. Do you think that players want to go play? Would have preferred to be in New York with either New York quarterback last year in those offenses? No, they would not. But continue on, Kyle.
Yeah, and to speak to that is Willie Snead. In 2015, he had 100 targets. He followed that up with 104 in 2016. He had a down year with New Orleans with some off-field stuff, I believe. I don't want to misrepresent that. Maybe it wasn't, but he didn't play nearly as much. Michael Thomas was there. Alvin Kamara was there. All of a sudden, I believe. So after 2017, he only had 16 targets in that year for clarification. He went to the Ravens. He had 95 targets with the Ravens his first year. Why? Because he was with Joe Flacco, and that offense wasn't getting it done. You know what ended up happening afterwards? They switched to Lamar Jackson, became a run-first concept offense, dominated, scored a bunch of touchdowns, scored a bunch of points, won a bunch of fucking games. That's what happens. His targets proceeded to plummet by more than half. 46 targets in 2019, 48 targets in 2020. You're going to sacrifice volume of stats, numbers, targets, whatever you want, in hopes of being victorious, because that's the ultimate team goal. And I think that's something that they're continuing to drill into free agents and their team, because this team has won a ridiculous amount of games over the last 2.5 years once Lamar Jackson became the starting quarterback. And Dez can say what he wanted to say on there, complaining that hey, they have a system already. They're proud of that system. It is what it is. And, you have to respect their system. There's no bad blood. That's their way of doing things. So you got to respect it. You do have to, because it's won a bunch of football games. It's brought them to the playoffs for the last few years after they weren't finding success even getting to the playoffs, when they had an 8-8 season, when Joe Flacco was on his last legs. I'm a big Joe Flacco guy. I was a huge fan of him. He won this damn franchise, their second championship, and he was the main cause of and proponent of it. But this offense is now structured in a different and more unique way that they're still winning a bunch of football games. They're still getting to the playoffs. They won a playoff game this year. And overall, no, this isn't the most dominant pass offense. I am heavily critical of this team lacking in the passing game. But if they can find more balance or more harmony, as Sarah Ellison liked to put it in your guys' interview, which I really, really appreciated, by the way, if they can become more harmonious with the passing and running team, that's what it's about. And they're trying to build towards that. What did you not get from John Harbaugh saying, hey, we're trying to figure this shit out. We're trying to get a passing team in here. Yeah, we want a number one, but no, we're not going to just beg him to come here. We're not going to beg Allen Robinson to get here, so we dump $20 million on him.
They're not willing to throw their identity away to bring in a player that doesn't fit what they're trying to do.
Bingo. There's no reason to. There's absolutely no reason to beg for a player to be here or to change your entire offensive concept that you have structured around your most dominant player and quite possibly the most dominant player on offense in the league right now, which is Lamar Jackson, to sacrifice so he can throw the ball some more because a wide receiver needs to get more passes. That's not the way this shit operates. You have a great tight end. You have a good wide receiver in Marquise Brown. You got some decent talent behind him. Yes, you can build up towards it, but also there's some other issues on this team, that being offensive line. 3 spots are up for grabs right now, it feels like, between center, right guard, right tackle, because Orlando Brown Jr. and the moratorium that we have on this podcast for him. But they got to figure a bunch of shit out, and wide receivers bickering over it. And Spencer, I think you put it, 39 targets are complaining right now. Team, between the two of those guys, they're throwing a big old fit on Twitter. I thought that was the most apt way of sorting that, and you can requote your own tweet because it was fucking brilliant. I mentioned it on the Twitch the Twitch stream the other night. They're yeah, these guys are bigger name. They're household names for Ravens fans, Willie Snead and Des Bryant. But overall,
do you think that a Seattle Seahawks fan thinks there's some trouble in Baltimore because Willie Snead is tweeting anyone can be a wide receiver one? No, there's not. And on top of that, within Des Bryant's comments, he talks about how, I felt like I got up to speed. Coach Harbaugh asked me if I was ready to play. I felt like we talked about this as it was happening. It felt like Harbaugh was very reluctant into the entire Des Bryant thing. He was like, we already have our system in place. What is he going to bring? How is he going to get antiquated? He hasn't been playing in 3 years. And, Harbaugh came around and it ends up with them hugging on the sideline after touchdowns. But Des Bryant, a receiver who's been at the pinnacle of football, won my fantasy football team a championship because he was so fucking dominant with a 15 touchdown year. He can't just slip into this offense. So then there's this entire faction.
He isn't a prime Des Bryant anymore. That's what's pissing me off. His name for Ravens fans is a buzzword, that of AJ Green. It's oh God, that guy that dominates on the field every single time we see him. You think of Des Bryant, you think of him going back to back.
The Ravens shot down Des Bryant and he didn't find another job and then circled back and joined the practice squad. Yep. So I thought Des played really well. I thought he was better than expectations, sure. But at the same time, he talks about how he, a longtime veteran who has played with different quarterbacks and different systems, different offensive coordinators, couldn't just integrate seamlessly into this offense. Mm-hmm. So then there's guys like Devin Duvernay and guys like James Prochet, and then the Ravens end up having to sign Tomlinson off the practice squad. And Boykin is still struggling to integrate. Hollywood, and isn't. I don't think he's struggling to integrate, but isn't always on the same page with Lamar. And it just goes to show that of course reps could help with that, but people think that the game reps are one thing. How many more reps do you get in practice when you have a full offseason, a full preseason? You're having scrimmages against other teams. They didn't have that. And it wasn't a guy like Justin Jefferson who came in and is just absolutely smoking people one-on-one in single coverage off of the play action in some simple fucking scheme, like the same thing that the Browns run, where you just get single coverage, the threat of the run, you roll out and throw a bomb. That's all good and dandy, but Devin Duvernay is not Justin Jefferson. Devin Duvernay is not a guy who's absolutely obliterating single coverage with false steps and hesitations and able to move laterally and vertically like that. Like, he's a promising receiver, but this is a complex offense. Mark Ingram has spoken about it. Various players have spoken about how large the Ravens playbook was. And it's something that they have their system in place. They establish over time, and they want it that way. They want it to be complicated because that way it is a Rubik's Cube for defenses to solve. But they don't have enough veterans. They had relied on all of these young guys, and that's why this year was kind of like a litmus test for the young guys of who is a player and who is not. Hollywood Brown, he's a player. Miles Boykin, maybe not relying on him next year to be a huge factor. If he makes a jump, that's great. But are you expecting him to after you expected him to last year? Maybe not. Devin Duvernay, it felt like they had a plan for him to take over for Willie Snead, someone who's more electric after the catch and do all of these things. But in the end, it's just not as simple as everyone wants it to be. And it doesn't fit your narrative like a glove and all of these different things. But at the end of the day, nothing has happened yet. Free agency hasn't even gotten here. Like, if the Ravens don't sign a single free agent, don't sign any offensive linemen, don't sign any receivers, then throw a hissy fit. Absolutely. I will. Everyone will. But nothing has happened. Des Bryant wasn't going to be a Raven. Willie Snead's not going to be here anyway. Like, those are guys that are like, all right, thank you for your time. Willie Snead was a great Raven. One of my, not favorite Ravens, but someone that I'll look back and be like, oh my God, Willie Snead had that incredible catch against the Chiefs when the Ravens were trying to mount a comeback where Lamar had to throw the fucking ball up. And
I think they're going to get more viable options in here, but I feel like he's going to be a guy that is remembered. Like, you have these baseball rebuilds and you have these guys that are like kind of there during the rebuild that are really fun. We're seeing this with the Orioles right now, and they're obviously not going to be there forever, but you're like, I fucking love that guy. Like, he helped make the transition. Exactly. I feel like that's kind of Willie Snead right now. I think he's going to go somewhere else and be productive. Dez, I love the guy. I don't see it happening anymore. Like, he's still, like, I guess good enough to go out there and run routes and like catch passes here and there. But like Bill Parcells used to talk about progress stoppers. I feel like Dez is kind of a progress stopper at this point. Like, why not just draft a guy and have him be productive? Maybe the Ravens could have benefited from doing that a little bit this past year, but there was also stuff going on in that locker room. And I also don't want this to be a thing where we're preaching and we're just overly defending the Ravens and the staff, because change does need to be made. DeCosta, he made some miscalculations at the wide receiver position. It happens. It's fine. That's part of the team building process. It is not linear. It does not happen in 1 year. Now is time to attack the receiver position. I believe that he's going to do it. And to your point, if he does not throw a hissy fit, I'm going to as well, because that is the only.
And if they do, if Eric DeCosta goes and gets, I don't know, Adam Thielen, a viable trade candidate who is on a modest contract, goes and gets him for a 2022 third round pick, and he signs Joe Thuney and drafts, Telvin Jenkins or whatever, trades Orlando Brown and picks up another offensive player, and then the offense is still having these same sputtering problems, then guess what? Greg Roman is probably gone. If the offense is not, clicking on all cylinders after you finally dive in, then they're probably gone. And that's why it was frustrating that the Ravens kind of worked backwards this past year. They should have overcompensated offensively, let their defense figure shit out, and then been able to go buy the defense, because you can buy a defense so easily in free agency. But they didn't, so here we are.
Yep, exactly. And like, to that original point that I was making, like, I am not going to preach about it, and I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong to be pissed off about this passing game, and like, you're wrong to like be pissed off about the way that playoff game went, because it did expose some issues, and they're dealing with them right now. I mean, this is still kind of the fallout from all of that, but those guys are going to be leaving. They're not relevant. And like, if you really think Eric DeCosta is stupid enough to not recognize the fact that there are problems on this offensive line, there were problems in the wide receiver room that he literally talked about, and everyone,
we need a wide receiver.
Yeah, they filled their pants when he made that video at the Senior Bowl. Like, he gets it, guys. Like, maybe that's just my take on it. Maybe he doesn't get it. Maybe he doesn't see that the wide receiver room needs some improvement. Maybe he doesn't see that the pass protection is not all the way there. And it's like, they're in some tough spots, admittedly. Like, Hayden Hurst requests a trade. It's like, what are you going to do about that? He wanted to go be a starter. Orlando Brown, God bless the guy. He is, maybe not the most traditional human being you'll ever meet. He wants to go and fulfill some dream.
He couldn't just be Lane Johnson. He can't just be Lane Johnson. Another Oklahoma tackle who was a left tackle who moved to right tackle, makes a shitload of money and plays on the right side. And he couldn't be him.
And he just wants to have fun. And, God bless him, because he's just going to go and try to do this left tackle thing. I hope it works out for him. I more so hope that the Ravens get a good return package from it and are able to, kind of rebuild this passing game a little bit, because frankly, tired of hearing about it. Tired of it. Fix it.
And here we are. There's nothing else we can say about it, about the passing game. until, are you not happy with Williams and Martin? Are you not happy with, them addressing it in the media? And free agency is still ahead of us. They're not losing anyone of any substantial impact on offense other than maybe Orlando Brown. So they're basically bringing everybody back and are going to be better. Like, they're going to improve. They're going to draft people. They're going to sign people. The offense will be better. They will spend more money on offense. They have the same core foundation with another year of experience and learned more about all of those guys and are able to self-scout. So the offense is going to be better.
Yeah, exactly.
Plain and simple.
And we're literally arguing the same thing. Both sides of the whole fire Greg Roman thing. Like, we're both arguing the same thing, that the offense needs to improve. And like, one side is saying, you don't really need to fire him. You just bring in offensive talent. And the other side is saying, fire him and bring in offensive talent. So it's really only like one divergence point there. And ultimately, I think it's going to come out in the wash. He's going to be fine. They're going to get offensive talent. And they're just going to figure it out. That's the way I see it. But we'll see what happens.
And there's the whole legion of people that's because Greg Roman didn't last more than 3 seasons in San Francisco or Buffalo, then he will not last more in Baltimore, which is probably true because offensive coordinators don't stick in the same spot for tons of years. That's uncommon when it happens. When there's a Josh McDaniels, that's a rare situation. Like, it happens. There's turnover. But just because I stubbed my toe walking down the stairs in 2010 and 2014 doesn't mean I'm going to stub my toe walking down the stairs in 2021.
Did you, though?
No. My toes are made of steel.
Get a knock on wood. But yeah, that got us a little hot and bothered, a little flustered. And speaking of hot and bothered,
speculation season. It's speculation.
It's silly season. And speaking of hot and bothered and flustered, Matty Judon, little hot and bothered and flustered on Twitter today. He was having a little fun.
Doggone Judon.
So Judon has, within the past couple days, he has gotten on Twitch. He has made his return to Twitter. He is getting active in the Instagram story game again, as we saw. And a little report came out from ESPN's Jamison Hensley. I forget what the initial context was. I've been kind of leading the way on some of these if you guys want to take over at some point. Kyle, you can go ahead.
I wrote the article. I've done this entire story. So I wrote an article on this. It's on Baltimore Beatdown. So I'm going to cite that a whole bunch here. But, what ended up happening is last month, ESPN's Jamison Hensley reported Judon was seeking a deal upwards of $20 million per year. Judon replied that this was false on his Instagram. We don't have the photos here. This is an audio medium, so I can't really show that to you. But essentially, he was saying that, Judon's seeking that deal, doesn't really have it. Hensley then reported that the Baltimore Ravens offered Judon a contract similar to the ones that Darius Smith received. Judon tagged him on a tweet saying, "Where Jamison Hensley lying butt at? I got time today. Bro, you have to stop lying. I know you want clicks and want to be the people's champ, but stop lying. That's weak." Jamison Hensley responded with, "Hi, Matthew. I was told that Ravens offered you a deal similar to Za'Darius's $16.5 million per season earlier this season, and it was declined. If you have a comment, I would certainly add that to the piece. I've always been fair with you. Thanks and welcome back to Twitter." Judon responded back, "This isn't true. Who told you this? If you can't tell me that, we're all going to have to think you pulling stuff out of nowhere." Jamison, I will definitely add your response to the piece. If you ever have an issue with any of my reporting, I would be happy to listen and explain. I've always aimed to cover you in a respectful manner in your 5 years in Baltimore. Hope you have a great off season. So Judon's essentially mad at Jamison that he was like, oh, he's seeking out a contract 20 plus million. And then he's upset that Judon didn't accept an offer for 16.5 million during the season. Judon is somewhat in the right here, somewhat in the wrong on this part, because according to the CBA, Article 10, Section 2K sets it at the 15th of July as a league deadline for franchise tag players. Quote, "Any club designating a franchise player shall have until 4 p.m. New York time on July 15 of the league year, or if July 15 falls on a Saturday or Sunday, the first Monday thereafter, for which the designation takes effect to sign a player to a multi-year contract or extension. After that date, the player must sign only a 1-year player contract with his prior club for that season, and such player contract may not be extended until after the club's last regular season game of that league year." Essentially, what that all means is that Judon was tagged. They didn't reach an agreement by July 15 of last year. He had to play on the tag. They can't extend the contract. You want to know why Ravens fans already fucking know about this? Because of the Yannick Ngakoue trade, where everybody's like, they got to extend him when they trade him. They can figure it out. The Ravens couldn't do that because he signed a 1-year deal with his prior club after the league date of July 15. That's the fucking issue. So Judon also said, like, hey, you guys, my people aren't talking to you, and the Ravens wouldn't admit to breaking CBA rules. So where the hell did you get this news from? All of that so far makes sense. Judon is in the right for that so far. I'm pretty biased toward Jameson because I am a reporter, and we're going to get to the part where Judon threatened an NFL journalist. Don't you worry, folks. We're going to get to that. But Judon's pretty right in saying, hey, my party didn't talk to you. The Ravens aren't going to admit to breaking CBA NFL rules. So where the fuck are you getting the $16.5 million deal? That's all fair and fine. But this is where it gets pretty fucking awkward, is because this morning, Matt Judon hopped on Instagram, posted on his Instagram story. I know y'all don't know because I just found out this year, but you have about a month to sign a long-term deal after being franchise tagged, the July 15 deadline, as we've been speaking about. If a deal doesn't get done in that time, July 15, ain't no deal or no talking between the two parties. At Jameson Hensley. So I'm waiting on your ESPN sourced apology, or I'm leaking these photos I got with you in the strip club. So now Judon is blackmailing ESPN's Jameson Hensley that he has to have an ESPN sourced apology, or he's leaking photos of Hensley in a strip club. And that's where it's fucked to me. And people will argue back and forth as to whether this is funny, this is right, this is wrong, this is too far, this is dumb, this is hilarious. I think you guys could tell from my tone that I'm not a big fan of this. Like if I were to ever do something, I'm not at Jameson Hensley's level. Jameson's a pretty respected journalist. He's somebody I look up to. He's helped me when I've had questions on how to operate things, when I had a particular Raven upset at my writing. And, what's going on. I can get into this full explanation here. But overall, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that Judon's threatening and blackmailing an ESPN journalist over this for the sake of being mad that he's not getting the apology he wants. So it's so silly. It's silly. That's where I'm going to leave this. I'll let you guys take over.
I'm on your side on this to an extent. I was getting a little salty in the group chat as Judon had time today. I think I had time today too. I was having a weird week at work. I've thought it through. I've chewed on it. He's in the right to be pissed off, as I've said. It sounds like this is not it sounds like Jameson's reporting was just incorrect, and he went back and corrected it and said this summer the offer was made. Which, I feel like that's kind of a weird move either way. But so it sounds like this is not the first time this has happened between the two. So you got every right to be pissed off. Where I just get a little weird with it is it's so over the top and so aggro. And it's not even you're framing it as a threat, which in theory it is. I think it's pretty clear he's joking, and it's pretty clear that he's framing it as this guy came at me with incorrect, false information, so I'm going to come back at him with incorrect, false information. I get the tit for tat kind of dynamic at play there, but where I get lost in it is okay, well, he's doing this stuff, and that's affecting your professional life, and that sucks. But then you just come back, your fucking brick with the trident, and you just throw it through his heart, and that escalated quickly because all of a sudden you're diving into the guy's personal life, and some people are going to see that, and most people are going to realize it's a joke. Some aren't, and that's almost
I didn't.
No, and
I didn't think it was a joke.
I get
that's how I took it. Is I didn't think it was a joke, and when it's not read as a joke, it's read as blackmail, because blackmail is, by definition, an act of coercion using the threat of revealing or publicizing either substantially true or false information. So it's still blackmail even if it's false, by the way. It's still false if it's still blackmail if he doesn't actually have pics. He's still threatening blackmail about a person or people unless certain demands are met. If you don't apologize, I am going to leak photos that I have of you in said strip club. You're a married person with at least one child. I believe he might have multiple. I know he has a son. So that's pretty awkward and damaging. And I get the tit for tat and the funny trying to be, quirky and Judon aggro bullshit about it. But like, dude, who the fuck? Like, how many people follow
it's
Judon?
like Jameson. It's like
too much.
Like, to me, it's like Jameson threw a rock at him, and like the whole thing about this is like I think Jameson.
I don't even think Judon. No, he accidentally threw a rock.
I think Jameson.
I think Jameson like purposefully.
I think he thinks he's right. Like,
info.
yeah, like I think he thinks he's right. It doesn't seem like he is, and like that's kind of where it's tough. But it seems like he accidentally threw a rock at him, and then Judon just whipped out a pistol and fucking shot him through the heart. Like, it just seems like this weird aggro thing. And I think maybe what makes me
like when Christopher goes to the donut shop and sees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, that's what I was trying to think of an example. That's the perfect one where like he goes there and like that dude that's in Jarhead is like jawing at him, and then he like fucking walks back in and he shoots him in the toe because he's not threatening enough or something like that. You scared of me, motherfucker. But like, to me, it comes back to like, basically where, and I'm going to get a little Joker here on you. We live in a society where society is at, where like it just within the past 5-10 years, and we don't have to get political, but I think the previous administration is an example of this, where like Twitter all of a sudden becomes a super aggro place, and like context gets lost, and we're just so quickly like jumping to like, you did something that affected me professionally, I'm just going to throw this shit out and like make you look like an asshole and like just completely come over the top. I didn't really understand it from that perspective. I don't think Matt is a bad guy. I hope nothing comes of this from either perspective. I sincerely hope there are not these pictures that he's speaking of, and I hope they do not get out. And I hope that Matt does not get charged with blackmail, because I think he was just probably having a bad day and did something stupid. But it just speaks to me, like, it just reminds me of where we're at in society right now, where it's so all or nothing. It is so like everything is so high stakes, and like we can't just sit down and have a fucking conversation about it. And he can't just call Jameson and say like, hey man, what the fuck? Like, let's clean this up. And like, he's probably going to be gone anyway. So it's like, it is what it is. But I don't know. Spenny, you didn't really have as much of a strong reaction to this.
To me, it reminds me of, in ways, when Taylor Swift won a music video award for best music video. And Kanye West comes on stage, he's wasted, and comes on and said, Beyonce is one of the greatest music videos of all time. And Taylor just kind of stands there with her mouth hanging open and is like, oh my God, what just happened? And it's like, couldn't Jameson Hensley just been like, Magic City wings are really good? Like, couldn't he just like cut the cheese? Like, you pissed a player off a little bit. I'm sure it's not the first time he's pissed a player off. And it could, like you said, it gets into this whole all or nothing thing. And from Judon's perspective, like, and this is speculative stuff, we don't usually do this too much, but from his perspective, Judon's minding his own business. Being a fucking bully on Twitter is part of what he does, of course. But
yeah, great return to Twitter here with the...
Marlon Humphrey has a beautiful tweet. He says Judon gets back on Twitter and immediately starts bullying people. One of the classic Marlo tweet. Good job, Marlo. But to me, it's just like Judon's sitting there, fucking going on Twitch, doing whatever he's doing, minding his own business to an extent. And for the second time in like a month, the same reporter is tweeting something basically about his pockets, and he gets pissed off and is like, what the hell, man? And he gets to the point where he's like, Tyus Bowser's doing nothing. Can't you go like pick on Tyus Bowser? Tyus Bowser
great tweet by Tyus.
Great response by Tyus. Tyus Bowser responds as if he's an unlisted phone number. I'm sorry, the number you've dialed cannot be completed as dialed. Please hang up and try again, or whatever he said.
cannot partake in this conversation.
And for the second time, the same reporter is saying basically, oh, the Ravens tried to give Judon a big fat bag, one that Judon probably really wants. He probably really wants Zadarius Smith's deal. He's probably been thinking about Zadarius Smith's deal for 2 straight years. And the Ravens let Zadarius Smith go, whatever. So maybe it did, maybe it didn't happen. We don't know if any of that happened. We don't know if the Ravens and every other team in the NFL quietly, does negotiate during that, and they kind of put out feelers, in fucking invisible ink or whatever, and you put a UV light on it or whatever the hell. But Judon's sitting there. Jameson Hensley, for the second time, comes after him, saying that he turned down a deal that is a big deal, one that Judon might really want. He might want that exact deal in free agency. That might be the exact target that him and his agent have in mind. They've discussed. Judon hasn't taken down any of his Ravens social media stuff. Usually when players are gone and they know they're gone, they strip their social media. That's exactly what Zadarius Smith did. They strip their social media, take everything off. No, Judon's is all Raven stuff still. He just made a Twitch Avi for his Twitch stream, and it's like basically a Ravens Avi. of like Tasmanian Devil wearing a purple 99 jersey with like purple background and everything. I don't know, maybe. And then Jason La Canfora comes on today, and Vaz is kind of filling us in as he's listening to it driving. He said he had to pull the car over so he could transcribe.
Which what a visual that must have been.
Is saying that the Ravens coaching staff wants Judon back under the franchise tag if he won't sign an extension at $20 million, because that is how valuable they see him. That if Calais Campbell is worth $15 million, Judon is worth $20 million, and all of these different things. So in the grand scheme of things, Judon, has all this going through his mind, and Jameson did poke him, and Judon did go a little bit over the top of his response or whatever. But it's like, couldn't we just have had fun with it? It was, yes, it was blackmail. It is literally technically blackmail, but is it blackmail? Is he trying to blackmail Jamison Hensley? Like, couldn't we have just had fun with it or whatever? It just got to a point where it's like, how dare Judon, this, freaking jerk. Hope he's gone. Like, Jake, you were fucking pissed when this happened.
I was. I like Jameson a lot. Like, I feel like Jameson is a good dude who, like, and I said that, like, if this were somebody else who had a history of, like, kind of just throwing shit against the wall, like, maybe my reaction would be a little bit different. But, like, it's just not that way. Like, Jameson is not that guy. He has not been that guy. And in this case, it looks like... back in. And it looks like... Yeah, and it looks like in this case it was. And I get it. Like, you're pissed off.
Jameson went back and changed the article to say from... tried to offer Judon an extension this season to this summer,
which you probably shouldn't be doing that. And like, I get it.
Maybe,
I think I just hate social media. I just like, why are we doing all this shit? I get, like, for Jameson, it's part of his job. For Judon, he's avoided it, I think, for reasons like this, because here he is deep in
on social media.
As soon as he comes back on, he's just like fucking firing shots across the bow. Like, and like, I get it, and that's who he is. And like I said, I don't think Matt is a bad guy. I think he was just having a bad day, and he did something really stupid that he's probably going to regret. And maybe we'll be getting some sort of notes app situation tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Kyle, you're asking to be tagged in here.
All right, two things. One, Judon left Twitter because it was all dramatic and he was getting in beefs, and he comes back only to fucking start swinging for the fences. He's the one that called out Hensley first. He's like, yo, I got time to wait. Where's that lion butt Jamison Hensley at? He's starting shit. So like, he can't complain like, oh man, Twitter's such filled with drama, and then create
the people who do that are very obnoxious, because
it's like the girl who like
can't handle Twitter, just shut the hell up and stop.
It's like the girl who like takes the break from Instagram because like it's all toxic, and then immediately comes back like 2 days later. It's like, what were we really doing there?
Exactly. So like, that's annoying on its face. The second thing is, I had a conflict with a Baltimore Ravens player. I've told you guys about this. I think I've mentioned on story here before. I've definitely mentioned on Twitch. And it's essentially like, I wrote an article saying it was a winners losers training camp article. I said this player, this rookie, had a really great day, had 2 picks, and had like a couple passes defensed on his first day of training camp. I put him as a winner. So I put the guy that he was performing against as a loser on this article. And I said, this player did nothing wrong today. It only looks like he's going to have far more competition than he may have anticipated. That's why I put him in the losers bracket. Player that I put in loser bracket said, this bullshit. You can't say that I'm a loser. You saw how I played today. You can't say this. This is bull. Like, essentially said that I was wrong. And I went, hey man, like, I definitely wrote that, like, you did nothing wrong. Like, that was my first sentence. Like, he did nothing wrong. It just looks like he's going to have more competition.
It was just the other end of the sword.
Than anticipated. That's all it was. And they were pissed off at me. And I went to look at DMs, and I went to Jeff Z's, and Jeff Z isn't following me, so I couldn't DM him back because his DMs aren't open. But you know whose are? Jamison Hensley's. And I went to him. This is my second or third year as an attendee for media credentials of training camp. And his DMs were open. I said, Jamison, here's the fucking thing. I need some help. I got a player upset at me. I want to know how to handle this. I don't know if you've ever experienced this before. And he responded to me, and he said, you know what you got to do? You got to make yourself available. At the end of tomorrow's training camp session, you're going to stand there where everybody walks, they pass by as they enter in the locker rooms. You're going to stand there. If this player wants to speak to you at any point, you respond, like, the consequences of my actions are here to talk. Like, let's do this. And like, if they don't want to talk to you, that's all equally fine. But like, if they do, they definitely want to talk to you. Like, Jamison's clearly making himself available to talk to. He's responding to Judon. He's answering the bell. Like, he's not some slimy, create a story for his own click narrative kind of person. That's not how we've viewed Jamison over our entire.
And
like,
shout out to
and
JLC,
stuff.
who's been accused of that and was spiking the football a little bit today.
You
which is
know,
sick.
like that's not him. Like that's not how I viewed Jameson. So like, I don't see like why people are even upset at Jameson in this, other than like he probably botched a write up. He maybe, you know, he probably reported things wrong. He got his timeline wrong, and like I don't remember the last time Jameson really messed up in an article. I don't know if you guys can, but like I feel like, you know, everybody stumbles and falters, but like you shouldn't have a guy threaten real or fake blackmail of you in a strip club over it.
I think for me,
egregious.
just to put a button on it for myself, like I think the triggering term for me was fake news. That's just been the catch-all, throw it out. If I don't like something, I'm just going to say it's fake news. And funny enough, it kind of might have been in this case, which like that is what it is. But like I've just gotten so fucking triggered and annoyed by that word over the past 5+ years. It's just been totally repurposed and misused, and like it's just this buzzword for anything that you don't like and don't want to hear anymore. And like I use it in jest plenty. Doesn't really feel like it was in jest here, and even if it was a joke that was maybe just a little bit a step too far. So I've calmed down a little bit, but like at the same time, like still just not a good look. I'm not gonna be gaslit into thinking this is like normal behavior for a 28-year-old dude.
It's
you know,
definitely not normal behavior. Like if like I fucked up the Nico Siragusa like report a long time ago. He got busted up in the knee. I asked a Ravens intern. I can say this now because he's no longer working for the Ravens. I asked a Ravens intern. I was like, "Hey, have you seen Nico Siragusa lately?" He's like, "Yeah, he's right over there." I went, sick. I can tweet that, you know, when I thought I saw him because he got carted off, maybe he came back. Like, has anybody seen him since then? That's what I was asking everybody. The Ravens intern was like, yes, he's definitely right there. And I was like, I can't see him. But the Ravens intern just told me he's still on the field. So you know what? I'm going to go behind the bleachers, tweet that Syracuse is back on the field, and everything's going to be chill. And an hour later, Harbaugh walks out, and the first thing he says is, yeah, Nico's been injured. Looks like a really severe injury. We already think from doctors' things that he tore ACL, probably MCL, PCL as well. So maybe meniscus. We're going to have to
literally ended his career.
Figure that out. Yeah, fucking triple crowned his knee in the worst way. And like the top thing on r/Ravens was like, this is why you don't fucking believe Baltimore beatdown. And I had to like go on there under my like regular username and be like, hey guys, my bad. I asked a Ravens person whether he was here or not, and he wasn't, and that's my bad. Like, and they're like, oh, at least you have the integrity to call, like, admit your faults. Like Hensley's own, like he's defending that like he got news, but he probably botched the fucking date, and he's correcting it now in the article. And that's like, he made a dumb mistake. He made a dumb mistake is what it sounds like. Judon's pissed, but like it's not cool that like when somebody makes an error of this to be like, hey, I can't wait to ruin your family. Like, I don't know if your wife's cool with you being at strip clubs or not, but I definitely got photos of that. Whether or not he actually does have photos of that. All it takes is like Jameson to be like, hey, honey, I'm still at the office writing this piece one time late.
Just hears like the in the background, and he's like in the club, just like trying to write up his report. He's
and
like,
either he is or he isn't, but like it's fucked up that like Judon took it that far.
Enjoys a nice lunch buffet from time to time.
The body sushi is fantastic.
Doesn't that work the same way for Judon though? He's minding his own business, and Jameson's working in the media, and Judon is in the media as well because of his profession.
Okay.
And he's minding his own business, and suddenly his entire life can be impacted because someone said that he turned down a multi-year $16.5 million AAV deal, and that impacts his life and his family as well.
Right.
And it does.
It might not be.
It does.
Not be blackmail, which I think it's just hilarious. Like he's freaking kidding.
It's not.
Kidding.
It's joking around. It's blackmail technically, but
accidental blackmail is like still blackmail though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like accidentally, like manslaughter is still a thing, even if it was accidental.
The
it wasn't accidental, but it wasn't real.
It wasn't even accidental.
And like he's probably
it was him saying, "You tell a lie, I tell a lie."
He's probably also like probably a little rabbit ears with it, because like this happens. Teams will leak shit like this to make players look bad in negotiations sometimes. So like maybe he's got rabbit ears to that. And you are totally right that like he has a right to be pissed off. This affects his professional life and his personal life to an extent.
That's all fair.
But like, what if I were Judon? Like, it's easy for me to say this, obviously.
It's kind of how would you like it? It's the second time, the same guy. So he's like, how would you like it? How would you like it if your wife got a picture, or if someone leaked something about you?
And he has every right to come back and do something.
Like, dude, we need to talk about this.
Like my only difference.
Let's sit down. Get me on the horn.
You don't even like you do not to me.
Been reported on how many people have reported on what Judon wants?
How many times has Judon been reported falsely. Not how many times has Judon been reported. He's been reported millions of times. That's fine. How many times has it been false? Twice by the same dude.
But like to me, it's
in
like
a short span, and he goes, hey, you need to shut the fuck up. This is wrong. Let's figure like, hey.
Well, to me, what it comes
the real
down to
deal.
is like
That
you're talking
hasn't
about
happened. You're wrong. This is false. That's bullshit.
and you're talking about like
that's where it is.
You're talking about like sitting down with them and like having a conversation, which I said they should do. Like that's not gonna happen. In a perfect world, it would, but it's not. All you have to do is just say like, hey, asshole, like you can't even negotiate in the window that you're talking about. Put it out there and just
you post a picture
and
of
just
a
let-
screenshot. You can
and
look up
just
the NFL.com rules. You can pull up whatever Kyle said, Article 510, Section K, whatever it was,
and let the
You post a
mistake speak for
screenshot of it
itself.
and be
Just
like, the
let
funny thing about that is that I literally can't do that, and the Ravens can't do it. So are you saying that they're doing something like? Are you ratting on the team that you're a beat
Everything up
reporter for?
until the Insta post.
exactly. And if you do that, you're allowing the mistake to speak for itself, and you're effectively taking the high road. You're calling this guy out on his bullshit, and you look great, and he looks bad, and that's all it has to be. But all I'm saying is he just took it a little too far. That is all.
And
That's
then
all-
the
yeah,
thing
that's
is,
what
though,
I'm saying.
a lot of people's reaction is like, good. I want Judon gone because of that. He made a mistake, so I want him gone. Like, okay, so do you want Jamison Hensley gone as the Ravens beat reporter for ESPN because he made a mistake? No. So I just don't get. I think there's a duality to it, and Judon made a stupid, corny joke. He makes a bunch of stupid, corny jokes all the time. You can literally hear him being like, hey, what if I leaked a photo of you? Like you can hear him saying that.
The
Like, that is
gears
something
just
that he
turning
would
and
say.
it-
I can visualize or
He's just
whatever.
sitting there, and Marlon's
Whatever
in the
the right
kitchen,
word
like, no, bro, don't do that, bro. Like Marlon's just like trying to talk him out of it. It's like, no, it's like the
Judon, bro, come on, bro.
Seinfeld and Wale when Wale called Complex and like,
hey, Marlo.
yeah, they were actually hanging out the day it happened, so that very well could have happened. But yeah, I
But in
think
the end, it's just like, all right, so what? Judon's a piece of shit because he said that Hensley said what? Said, what if I post a picture of you at the strip club? Like,
It said,
James,
you have to either give me an ESPN sourced apology, or I'm leaking photos.
why don't you
of
take your sources and
at the strip club.
apologize?
it's just
But that's the irony of it. There's no, because that is the joke itself. You can't source, and there's no source of an ESPN apology. Like,
which is just
Is
like
it
why
ridiculous?
like
Source an
Is
apology.
it
He's like-
ridiculous? Yes. Is it still a step too far?
completely ridiculous.
Kinda.
It's completely ridiculous.
there are some
Is it
things that are
too
like
far?
so over the top and so crazy that are like whatever. This is kind of like I don't know how Jameson gets down necessarily. Seems like a very clean cut family man. But listen, some people see that, maybe they're thinking, well, this guy, I got to get some body.
Some people
sushi
have
with
fun
him.
at strip clubs. Some people enjoy doing
legal.
that.
It's
I had a
illegal.
boss that was like, that was his thing to do. He'd get off work, he'd go hang out there. He'd get some drinks there. He'd have some people dance with him. His wife
It
was
sounds
chill
like
with
you
it.
were up
That's
close
the
and
way
personal.
shit goes sometimes.
Sounds like you were up close and personal with this.
I was not. No, I live in Colorado. I'm a broke college kid. That's not my
Listen,
thing.
it sounds like he was bankrolling
Oh,
things.
But
That's-
this dude, when he worked in Houston, definitely was that way.
Houston,
That's
a
what he said. He's
sneaky
like, when I lived in
good
Houston, that's my shit. I would
sneaky-
close down the restaurant and then I would go to the strip club. Like that's where I'd get my drinks. It
For a
was closer
city-
than going to a
Atlanta,
bar.
Vegas.
for a city that is a slab of concrete. Houston's supposed to be a very underrated strip club city.
Why do you think James Harden had his jersey hung up in rafters of strip clubs?
Well, he went
dude?
to Atlanta. He outgrew that after a while. He was getting his his
but like the
hot
dude
chicken
did
and-
his thing. All right, if we're gonna argue about strip clubs now, I'm fine to do so. But like overall, like,
I think we've made our
was-
points. Like
was
we
it- was
get
it
it.
ridiculous? Yes, Spencer, I agree. Was he able to like argue that fairly? Yes. Him citing that, hey, Ravens are kind of breaking the rules if they did that. So I don't know why they'd leak that. And my party didn't say anything to you. So I don't know where the fuck you're getting your source from because it's kind of against CBA guidelines. All that's fair. Completely in the right with for Judon there. I've said up until the point where he posted the
rings a
Insta
little bit of an
story
alarm.
was ridiculous.
There have been alarms rang by the NFL league office for much less, and that rings a little bit of an alarm for something that was clearly. It was just, I don't know. It was a really boneheaded mistake for Jameson to say that. It happens. I make boneheaded mistakes every 3 to 5 minutes, but it's just like the people are all talking about Judon like he's this horrible human being because he said that Jameson Hensley owes him an ESPN sourced apology, or he's. I mean.
And I got a little animated in the Slack, but like I think I was careful not to say that like Matt is a bad dude or like an idiot. But
Right.
like
He's a bully.
yeah, a little bit. Like him having fun with Humphrey calling him Marvin and all that shit, like that whole thing. Like he's just doing bits. Like he's trying to have fun. He's trying to bully people.
Right.
And listen, I can respect a good bully here and there, but I don't know. It's just like it was just kind of a weird. Like, what are we doing? Like, come on.
All right. instead of first take, we're going to do final take here. My final take is like Judon's in the right for calling him out on the CBA stuff, on the my party doesn't speak to you, where you're getting your information stuff. All of that all makes sense. I agree with Judon there. I think
Judon is a little too thin-skinned.
I think now that I've cooled off on like it might have been a joke instead of a real deal thing on the Insta story thing, which he deleted, by the way. He has since deleted it. I've more cooled off on it. It could be more of a joke, but like when you see that, that's a fucking aggro move. That's a little aggressive. Not a little. It's aggressive. I think it crossed a line that's unnecessary.
For being a bully, I guess bullies usually do have some thin skin to a degree.
Yeah,
Judon definitely has some thin skin about it.
He was right about the CBA stuff. He was right about everything else. I think that was a step too far. I think it was a little ridiculous. And like now Hensley's name is in the national news, not as a Baltimore Ravens reporter, but as a guy that might be fucking around in strip clubs. And like he's dragging him there. And like, I don't think that's fair to Hensley.
I actually do think,
and I also don't think
about is that people who don't know Judon, like I referenced I said Seattle Seahawks fans, Seattle Seahawks fans, and people who consume media out west, they don't know that Judon's a dick on Twitter.
Yeah,
they're like, know that Judon fucks around like that. And they're like,
Barstool's plastering Jamison Hensley's name as a guy who's gonna have leaked photos.
Banks got right on that.
Banks got right on it. Fucking everybody's getting on it now because hey, this is a hilarious Barstool-esque story. Player like leaking photos of strip club stuff. Like that's why I'm a little butthurt by it. And like I'm a Jameson fan. Like he helped me in my career get to where the fuck I am right now, and he's been helping me, and he's been a bit of a mentor. So like I'm gonna start defending him over the Ravens guy that like I didn't accept or didn't get an offer for $16.5 million a year.
And different people
I'm gonna say this guy's
different people have different morals, and different people abide by
different senses of humor. It's
at the same time with one. Jameson could have burnt Twitter to the ground if he just would have commented under Judon's thing and said, what can I say? The lemon pepper wings are out of this world.
I was just thinking that exact joke. Like if he like played into it a little bit, like that would have been perfect. I get that like it's his job and he doesn't want to like do anything, but that would have been.
And for all we know, he's a very, he could be a very strictly religious person who doesn't find that funny at all and is extremely offended, and it has upset his family. And this is a big deal. Like I said, people on the West Coast or people that are New York Giants fans or whatever don't know that Judon is literally a bully on Twitter and to his teammates in the locker room in a funny way, and everybody loves him and haha and whatever. But at the end of the day,
and that's where
it's just been quite the day.
And that's where it's tough with Jameson, because like you say that and it's like, yeah, now like people in like Arizona, if somebody sees like a Raven story that's like pertinent to the Cardinals for some reason, they click on it. It's like, oh hey, the strip club guy, that's sick. But yeah, I don't know. Like I've said my piece on it. I agree pretty much with you, Kyle. And yeah, I've cooled down on it. Like Matt, he's doing what he's doing. He's not a bad guy, but this is just a little bit of a weird look.
Somebody in the Discord for Baltimore Beatdowns, like keep people's families out of your professional disagreements. Like, and I think that could be taken in this. Like, yeah, you can have disagreements about like business and you can in reporting, but like this felt a little bit personal, more so than necessary is where I got with this. But that was quite an adventure and an event here on the pod, boys. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. I think we got some good stuff out there.
It's been speculation season. It's been rumor season. It's been moratorium season.
Speculation. No info.
It's we usually don't dive into that stuff and usually are pretty dismissive of it, but we're having fun. There's not a lot else going on. With that all being said, we will be getting back into some pretty serious content next week. Jake and I, we're going to start having our guests on for draft season as well. We're going to get those fired up, but we're going to be having an interactive sort of pre-draft build-up. We're going to be going position by position through the NFL draft class for 2021. Next week, we're going to be starting with edges. And what we want to do is we want to take a pretty in-depth look at each position on Thursdays. It'll come out on Fridays or something of the sort. That might not be the exact case, pardon me. But
yeah, so it's going to be, we're going to record, I believe, just to pull the curtain back, we're going to record all at once in 1 week. And we're going to basically record those 2 episodes over time. We're going to do our mailbag episodes on Friday. And we're going to be recording these episodes to release on Monday or Tuesday. We'll see what it is, but continue.
So they should be coming out on Monday or Tuesday for the draft class stuff. And we're going to try and compile what we think our listeners or what our listeners will find as the perfect draft. And we're going to do so by examining edge prospects and compiling a a fun sort of board that will dip between positional rounds and things like that. We're going to ask you guys to go on Twitter, potentially go on Instagram as well, and vote for your favorite prospects as a fit to the Baltimore Ravens, depending on position. And we're going to try and establish a board. And that way we're gonna make it interactive for you guys and get your input and what you guys think ahead of the 2021 NFL draft. It's going to be a fun one. There's going to be some weird stuff going on, lots of pro days coming up and things like that. But next week we are going to start with the edge class, so the pass rushers, and take a look at those if you want to, or you can use our episodes as a springboard for each position. And that way we're going to get started. We'll give you more details next week as it comes out, and more to come on Twitter and Instagram as well. So stay tuned and be sure to look out for that as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. Really excited. It's kind of the first time that we've really planned out like months ahead as far as content wise. And I think the show is really going to benefit from it. I think we're going to have a ton of good draft content for you all. Also efforting some guests to come on and join the show, some familiar faces, hopefully maybe get some new blood into the mix as well. But draft season is always a fun season with the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As far as those social medias that Spencer mentioned, you can follow the show on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow us on Instagram at Baltimore_Beatdown. The main Twitter account is at BMoreBeatdown. I am at Jake Luke. That is LOUQUE. Spencer is at Ravens4Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle. Kyle, where can they find you and your stuff?
You can find me on Twitch, streaming 4 times or more per week. I break down NFL content, Ravens news, just like this. We hang out, play video games as a group or solo, from NFL Street to Rocket League to Pokemon, whatever you guys are really in the mood. Jackbox party games we can do as a group, which has been really fun and eventful. And we can do that at twitch.tv/Baltimore Beatdown. You can find my personal Twitter account at BB_Kyle P. Barber.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us, buddy. It was a ton of fun. I think we had some really good, spirited discussion there. It was good. Going to be some more great content coming up. I might actually just go ahead and throw this out on Thursday. We'll see what happens. I think the info that we were just touching on is pretty relevant. So we'll see what happens as far as this episode releases, but coming to you either on a Thursday or Friday. So hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Subscribe to the show if you are not already. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts at Baltimore Beatdown, or YouTube at Baltimore Beatdown as well. Drop a like and a comment on the video if you're watching it there. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope you have yourselves a great weekend, like I said, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys. See you later. All right, God bless. Hell yeah.